Well, happy Monday, everybody. How are y'all doing? It is live time as I get here and we pull that out and bus is leaving. What? We got a few stragglers. All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Prosperity Day. It's Monday. Rainy day here. Love it. You know, rain is what brings life to the earth. It's that activator. So, hey, but some people don't. But anyway, thank you for tuning in, speaking favor over us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Constant reality. Because I'll tell you, from an observer's point of view, they're really jacking with this one. That's all I got to say. They are jacking with this reality. It's crazy. And I don't know. I don't know if it's, we read a lot of stuff here. And I mean, is it somehow or another we have a particular perspective on things that others don't share? But then I also believe that we're much larger than what we realize. I mean, there's enough original programming out there that, wow, I am firmly convinced they listen to shows like this, to others, and they write the most amazing scripts and transform this into a visual reality. I mean, you think about it. You're watching a movie. Let's say it's a love story, right? We like that stuff. I remember the movie A Love Story. Um, I think The Way We Were with Streisand and Redford thought was a really good one. And, who can't not deny Ghost? So we love that because it invokes, and here's the thing, it's not real. I mean, it's two characters reading from a script, but yet that uniqueness within us makes it real. We can feel the emotion. We let it take us up and then it lets us take us down, and we love it. You will shed tears. And again, it's only an image, it's not real, but it becomes real to us on the inside. I mean, tell me that's not some alchemy. That's all I got to say about that. Hello, chat room. Good to see everyone. Nina, how you doing? Angie, good to see you. Know there's a song about you, like you never heard that before. Jackie, nothing missing, nothing broken, darling. Shirley and Deborah Sloan, hello. Robert V, how are you doing? Good to see you, brother. Got to get you on here sometime, brother. Let me know. Let's see who Lost in Space. I saw Gilbert, John Price, Lady Ellie. Um, Wayne on the plane. That person is not real. We think it's real. I mean, come on, ladies. How many of you can still remember Patrick Swayze's character's name? Doom, 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 doom. Sam. Yeah. I mean, that's just like, it's got love all over it. You know, And then Patrick Swayze leaves this realm all too quickly. Great scene at the very end, right? He says, that love, that love that's in the inside of us, we carry that. Oh, yeah, baby. Tell you what, give you goosebumps all over. Hello, Linda Espinoza. What's up? Good to see you, Bob Joe. Yep. Sam. There we go. Yeah. We love it. Emotions. Anyway, strange reality we live in. It's getting, it is just plain weird out there. When I see these minuets, these puppets. And you begin to see who is pulling the strings. But what I think is happening here, the hands are not the same hands that actually connect to that next level up. The hands are just merely an appendage, an instrument that merely plays out that which it's been told. It's that melody in the back of your head that you can't get out. It's that voice that never seems to leave. It's all of that. And yet, this is what we call reality. It's jacked up. Excuse me a second. I did not know. It's rude. Excuse me. Silence that thing right now. So, over the weekend, we were somewhere and they had the movie Beetlejuice on. And it was interesting because I think it's a great movie. It's entertaining. I mean, Gina Davis, how can you go wrong there? Alex Baldwin, I think, is one of his best roles of him is looking at, but anyway, and Michael Keaton, Batman. But so we're sitting and everything, and you know, they brought up the book of the recently deceased. And if you remember the scene in there where Alex Baldwin's character can't, so it's like reading stereo instructions. Yeah, I can dig that. And it was curious because if you see what's going on around us, it all seems to be hurting us in a particular direction. Spoke about that on Friday. Got a lot of emails on that one. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's no doubt something is going to happen. So, best prepare yourself and then continue to create memories here. Project a reality. If we can get so, how shall we say, mesmerized, hypnotized by an image before us, and as we see a scene unfolding, we, the inside of us, we can't distinguish that is fantasy, and yet we live in reality. This reality is fantasy across the board. And there are groups of people that, to be candid with you, when you see what they say, what they do, they don't seem to, well, they don't seem to fear death. Or if they do, they don't show it, but their actions are so, it's like the event that happened, was that Friday night in Moscow. I unfortunately saw some of the video and I don't get it. I really don't. How we say we're all the same. We say that everyone born is born with a soul. We say that everyone has a spirit. We say that everyone loves life, cherish it above everything else, but I don't think that's true. I just don't. And I don't know how you define evil, because if you define evil with a lack of respect for life, what we call life, I think this is still death, because I think this is truly hell. Well, it gets even stranger, because if we're all the same, and if we have that ability to, I don't know, to go to the extremes of inflicting pain, restrictions. I mean, you look You look at the world today, and it's very clear that something is driving it where they want to truly make this a mental prison. Um, and then you look at this, we have individuals that, I don't know, they don't have the same karma going for them. And these events happen where it's us humans shedding the blood of other humans. We call it evil, but if I was to apply the term evil, that's why I left the religion I was in. You can't murder someone and say because it's a god that somehow it's no foul, but if it's a human, you know, it's a crime. But murder. And then that got me thinking as we were watching this movie, Booty, which is a good movie, that, well, this book that they had, people, I think some people have read it. It's amazing how many people have not. I think it's a delightful approach. And then you've got this other book I'm going to show us where they describe the realm of the dead in this ghoulish, really freak show type thing. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, all my life, I was raised that said that there was this bad place, hell, this good place called heaven. And the battle was for your soul. Never my spirit, but my soul. And isn't it odd that airline pilots, you know what they call their passengers? Souls. This is flight so and so with 210 souls on board. Just the little things in life, I digress. And so, if that is the case, then I have to say, I think that's through their interpretation. Because this perspective I had of heaven and hell was well defined. Heaven was ambiguous, meaning I'm really not sure what you do because it doesn't really say. Oh, there's a couple of verses in there that, I don't know, makes you think that it's a weird picture because, again, it's a picture. Not sure it's real, but it certainly feels real. Where you're not going to be sitting on a cloud playing a harp, I can assure you that. But we never have the stories, except I got several books, The Journey of the Soul, and there's a couple of others that paint this afterlife in a manner that I think is much more upbeat, much more positive, and that's the problem, because if you look at the departure of this realm, well, it's supposed to be morbid, it's supposed to be sad, and blah blah blah. But it's also been stated that it's a release. It's freedom. But is it? Going to get in later this week. I mean, I keep thinking, are we at the end of something here? I mean, like, above all the confusion and chaos of the world, I mean, they're driving for World War III. We talked about that. It's going to happen. These idiots are pressing it unless we can inject a virus thought that takes over. But I don't know if we really understand who's really running the show here. I've read a lot, and we all have. We all have a different opinion. But I don't think anyone's got it right. I don't. If someone had it right, we would never know about it. Because if one person gets it right, well, the hive consciousness, the collective consciousness of our species that somehow or another we're linked to even after death, which I contend is really life. And if one person had the answer, then others would have the answer really quickly. And we'd start seeing this. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe, maybe, I don't know. What say you, Robert V? What do you say on that? Um, but so let's just look at this. I thought it was interesting because, well, we started on the one from John D. And we have to finish that one because that was just the prelude. You get to see who these characters are. And I don't know. I mean, I look at some of the stuff that's out there and they try to paint this scary thing, of demons and, these creatures. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, to what end? So this is what reality is. You got scary things called demons, got these other things called angels. They're always wanting to kill humans. I mean, every one of them want to kill a human. I don't know. That gives me kind of that creepy feeling that, I don't like being a sheep. Didn't like it when, because every good shepherd eventually leads the sheep to slaughter. I don't care what guise it is. That is the purpose of the shepherd. Sacrifice a few to the wolves. So are the wolves another species? Are they the demons? But anyway, this all plays into a role of how we look at this morbid subject of what death is. So thought, well, if someone went through, and that's interesting because it wasn't just a prop in the movie, there was an actual book. And if this is what truly awaits us as our destiny, I think we ought to change that. And the only way you change it is that you got to be aware that it's out there. This is a really, really interesting, and it's long, but this is a book called The Face of Death by Mark Hagen and Sam Schupp, I believe. Um, oh, folks, I just want to show you this is not even the book we're going to be looking at. Um, Thana, death, what is it? What mask does it wear? What shall we say of it? What can be said for certain? Why does death hold such lasting fascination? There are so many questions and so few answers. For what could be more mysterious? What subject more incomprehensible? How to speak of that which cannot be shared? The living are as shallow as they are witless. They ask the questions, but don't want the answers. They are as bound by lies as they are by truth. But soon one will no longer be bound by other. And the artwork in here is just fabulous. I'll just read a couple of pages in this. Motivated by nothing they can name, these killers have done their will, but the demons have fled, and now the puppets stand confused. How easy the birth into death as compared to the birth into life. First, there is pain, then there is nothing. Agony, torture, relief. It is over. Praise Sharon that I am here in time. Always am I struck by how they fumble like newborn babies, by the look in their faces as they first behold the shell in which they so longed resided. Well, you thirst for the knowledge, and now you have the truth of it. It's really not that bewildering. You've just got to bring things, excuse me, into perspective. Welcome to reality, larva. It just takes a little getting used to. Seeing the death in things, seeing life's true form. The black taint. Death surrounds us, constantly threatening, and eventually overwhelming us. It cannot be ignored nor forgotten. The stench of death taints everything we say and do. The suffering of the human condition is described by the despair of purpose and the angst of spiritual malaise. Life is so often devoid of meaning or significance. Life does not last long. It is but a spark in the dead, black night, welcoming us at the terminus of life. Death awaits us ever patiently. Death is a rebirth. It is the stepping over, a passage through the shroud. It is not an ending, but a beginning. It is a rite of passage, the end of one journey and the beginning of another. The fear, the loathing, the terror, the peace, the salvation, the ecstasy, the pain, and the oblivion. That is death. Death is all, and it is nothing. Don't let your terror rule you. There's not I can diff. You let your shadow rule. You, if you slip through the cracks, I cannot hoist you back up. Alas, much weigh upon you, dark child. The oblivion cannot be delayed. The nightmares pull you down. Messed up thinking, but who knows? In the tempest, this is the whirlpool at the rim of reality, a rolling of sea of curses and hatred. This is the void, and nothing is real here. Know that here, imagination creates its own form. I'm going to leave it off right over there. Interesting book, isn't it? All right, this is it's actually what I have read on this. It's really a role-playing game. But role-playing games are really, really good. Top salespeople, again, I've told you this. You learn your craft by role-playing. Still remember Bill Smith. Trust you're having a good one up there. The Handbook for the Recently Deceased, You're Dead, serves two purposes. One, on one hand, it's a guide to playing and storytelling characters who are now in the underworld, with an eye to chronicles focused on the newly dead. On the other, it lends a helping hand to the new wraith players and the storytellers who may be having a little difficulty getting going. The book is broken into three sections, one each for players, shadow guides, and storytellers. Part one is for players. It talks about how to address the challenges of playing Wraith for the first time, focusing on specific challenges like getting used to Wraith's metaphysics and learning how to address passions and fetters. It also touches on role-playing tidbits for players of newly created Wraiths, on the experience of being reaped into the Shadowlands and how that affects play. Part two is the Shadow Guide stepping into the role for the first time. It discusses everything from how to create a Shadow's voice to how to run your first thought, hopefully not your last, harrowing. On the role-playing side, it also goes into development of the shadow from the first moments, how it starts communicating with the psyche, how it discovers its thorns and dark passions, and more. I mean, I'm convinced. For decades, it's like these spirits. I mean, they dig sex, apparently dig food. I mean, all of this seems to happen. They can smell, they can eat. I mean, come on. How's it much different from here? And that's what they say. For many of us, it's not, it's going to be like you're still living. Maybe you really are. Part 3 is for storytellers. Like the other two sections, it contains information from beginning storytellers and for storytellers running a chronicle of freshly reaped wraiths. It pays special attention to working with passions and fetters, the backbone of any story featuring the recently and not so recently dead. Even the most experienced among the quick and the dead will find something new in this book. Part 1, playing the recently deceased. You're dead, and that's okay. The first thing to remember is that your wraith character is dead, and that's just fine. It doesn't mean your character has failed somehow. Rather, it means they're one of the few with the tenacity and the drive to hang on after the Grim Reaper paid them a visit. Just by existing as a wraith, they're already remarkable. What your character is getting is something rare and precious, a second chance. It's a second chance to set right what they did wrong in the world, or maybe just a second chance to do something meaningful. But it's a chance to do something. Being a wraith isn't just waiting around hopelessly for oblivion to come calling. It's all the things you do in the face of oblivion's presence to show that existence, specifically your existence, matters. That's the essential truth of a wraith. Bearing that in mind, the world of wraith can be overwhelming for a new player. What follows here is some advice for dipping your toe in the waters in a way that makes sliding into the game easier and less intimidating. I mean, isn't this a game? I hear people rile against that, but I disagree with you. This is a game. It's a competition. People say, well, I'm here for learn. No, you're in the game. Now, I don't know how you rate you finish. That's your part. All right, bad news from the afterlife. The odds are slim that your character is going to know what to expect on the other side. Maybe if they were a medium or an afterlife researcher, they might have some inklings, but beyond that, chances are that whatever they encounter is completely new to their experience. As such, it's generally going to take some time for a new wraith to acclimate. In other words, they're going to have a lot of questions. How those get answered can go a long way towards making onboarding the wraith a lot easier. Part of the fun of the game is discovery and exploration, learning what this new world you have been shoved unceremoniously into is like, and figuring out how to survive it. That being said, there's always the risk of getting forced fed from the fire hose, an endless string of terms and rules that can drown the fun intrinsic to playing. That's what you and your storyteller should strive to avoid. With that in mind, feel free to ask questions, both in character and out. Your storyteller can decide what you should know versus what your character should, but questions of mechanics should always be on the table. You may need to discover the answers to your questions in game, but asking is still the right idea. I love how they bring this into reality. The existing paradigm. Pretty much everybody has some idea as to what happens after they die. It might be religiously inspired belief, a spiritual conception, or even nothingness. But most humans have given at least some thought as to what comes next. The fact that the afterlife, as present in wraith, doesn't match any of those preconceptions that can come to a tremendous surprise. Reconciling what one was expecting with the harsh reality of reapers, shadows, and stygia can be a shock to any wraith, let alone one who had strong beliefs about what was coming next. I had this discussion recently with someone that is it's already underway, the transition. And when you begin to question the paradigm, you question, how is this going to work? And then, yeah, when you know there is no more time, yeah, the process of becoming a wraith is deceptively simple. Die with unfinished business so pressing that you're anchored to the lands of the living and you become a wraith. These can be regrets, unfulfilled calls for vengeance, or overwhelming love. The details matter less than the fact that the emotion, the passion behind it is stronger than death. If that's the case, your soul materializes in the Shadowlands, wrapped inside a protective call. The call cushions the shock of arrival in a new plane of existence. However, it's almost impossible to break out of your own. Generally, new wraiths require the assistance of others, be they friendly or otherwise, to help you out. Once released from your call, you are known as an infant, among other things, and you start the process of becoming a fully fledged denizen of the underworld. Where you pop up in the afterlife is an interesting question. Some wraiths cross over right into the location they died. Others find themselves at their strongest fetter, and a few are just scattered in places that seem random, but these inevitably turn out to be significant, as if the hand of fate, or the ladies thereof, had reached out and plucked them into existence at just the right spot for great or terrible things to happen there. Getting reaped. As noted above, very few wraiths escape their own calls without help. The vast majority are reaped, which is to say someone cuts the call open and helps them out. Trina, I can't help but not think about you and being cut out of the serpent. The process of getting reaped can be overwhelming. The new infant goes from the semi-sensory deprivation of the call into their new existence without warning or preparation. The first thing the new wraith sees, besides their reaper, is the Shadowlands, the sad, decayed mirror of the living world. Throw in the effects of life sight and death sight, and the world is barely recognizable. A shockingly different landscape than the one the wraith is used to. As such, it makes sense for a new wraith to be stunned for a minute or two as they try to process all of the new information their senses are feeding them. So, observation one, does death hurt? I don't know. Did birth hurt? I think if birth would have to be the antithesis of death in the experience. But it's very obvious that if we carry consciousness, we carry the memories, we carry the intelligence, whatever progression we've made. And this gives me the sense that there's not this reincarnation thing. But in any case, we carry our senses with us, and maybe a few others that we are not aware of. And then there's the Reaper. Some are kind, but some are not. It all depends on what sort of chronicle your storyteller wants to run. A helpful Reaper can fill you in on the basics of the underworld while you acclimate and to help you adjust. A neutral one may just turn you loose to find your own answers. And an unfriendly one can clamp you in irons and try to haul you off to the forages. I don't like C. No. But we've asked this question. If you were born over here, you ain't going to make it unless there's someone else there to take care of you. Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it indifferent? I have my opinions. I'm sure you got yours. All right, so now what do? The underworld's a big place, and there's a lot to do in it. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the possibilities. Fortunately, new wraiths are confined to the Shadowlands in their initial time in the underworld, keeping their choices limited but clear. Some options include, number one, tend to your fetters. This is an easy one. Your fetters are what tie you to the skin lands. Makes sense. Mouth breathers, I don't know. They're the things your character cares about so much that they held them back after they died. Just defending them from peril can be a full-time job, depending on the circumstances you left them in. It's perfectly acceptable to ignore. Okay. Wow. There's a very good chance a new wraith is going to get shackled and hauled off as fodder for the forages. There is a simply high chance that this not the intended arc of the chronicle. New players should look for a chance to escape or some other intervention that will shortcut the trip to the forages and free your character. Be alert for the possibility and get ready to act when the storyteller gives you the opportunity. You may get more than one. So I just want to give a simple question here. Are we living out our lives to a storyteller? Think about all the choices you've had to make in your life. Some were forced, some were not. And in those decisions that you may not have realized that were going to have a huge impact on your life. So was that predestined? I mean, if you connect the dots, and even if you split the dots and one goes one way and the other goes the other, and you take that other. So is that, I mean, I look at how people live. I look at my life. I mean, I've had 25,000 plus life, deaths, and resurrection. Each day playing out a story that I, as the main character, feel that I have the sovereignty, I have the sense of presence of mind to realize that I have making innumerable decisions. But then you place that into responsibilities. Each of us have responsibilities that we ourselves have made. And the responsibilities are connected to others who have similar or like responsibilities. And the role for each one is already precasted. For instance, if you were, let's say, a journeyman on the job, and then you were made a foreman, then you were made a supervisor. Each one of those are a character's role that are defined. Just something to think about, or at least that's how. Now, the Stygia, the politics of the underworld and everything else in order to take care of your own business. Ideally, you're with a group that can work with that decision, maybe one with shared fetters. Focusing on fetter means staying in the Shadowlands and staying close to the lands of the living. In gameplay terms, that means potentially interacting with mortals and being careful about dictum mortem violations and affecting the living world as your fetters demand. It also means interacting with other wraiths who have the same idea you do, and quite possibly that represents that the representative of the local necropolis. Encounters with specters are likely to be rare, but your character relative limitations may mean trying to keep fetters safe stretches your character's limit and ingenuity. Get involved locally. Odds are there's a wraith community where you crossed over, and there's always a place for a hardworking soul, assuming you avoid the forages. Signing on with a legion at the necropolis can serve as an introduction to local intrigue while you get your feet wet with the hierarchy. Odds are you'll have fewer chances to interact with the Skinlands. Your coworkers will be watching for those pesky dictum mortem violations, but you'll still have access to your fetters so you can keep an eye on them. Plus, there's always the possibility of a maelstrom, in which case having the swords of the local legionnaires at your back is probably a good thing. Join the welcoming committee. Odds are someone helped you escape your coal. Now it's your turn to return the favor, searching the landscape for a new wraiths and helping them out, preferably before others, less friendly. Reapers can find them. Or you could go the unfriendly route yourself. If you're feeling less sociable, you can go out looking for relics, some of which are no doubt useful or valuable. Of course, you won't be the only one on the search, and the competition can bring you into conflict with other scavengers. Just me. I mean, the great gift that we were given is our imagination. It is the catalyst to forming reality. I just reject this. I'm going to be on my freaking beach. Now, they can have all this they want. Nip, nip, nip. Because you know what I'm not hearing in here? I'm not hearing rock and roll. Unless one of these reapers, who is it? Blue Oyster Cult? Don't fear the reaper. Okay. Of course, you won't be the only one on the search. The competition can bring again. It can also introduce you to a local wraiths dwelling outside the necropolis, such as the renegade cell or the heretic cult. They might be friendly, they might not. Either way, it's likely to be an interesting encounter and a jumping off point for future adventures. Well, burn it all down. You might get a taste of the hierarchy, dislike it, and dedicate your afterlife to tearing it down. You wouldn't be the first wraith to get this idea, nor will you be the last. Maybe you can search for allies in the Acropolis, wraiths who are just looking for the right leader or leaders to raise up. Or maybe hardened renegades come calling for you to recruit you into their fight. Just remember, you're not alone. Odds are you're playing as part of a group of wraiths called a circle. Ideally, your circle gives you companionship, assistance, and someone to watch your back in the underworld. But being part of the circle means that you don't have to make decisions or face the future alone. Instead, you can make group decisions about what to do and whom to do it with. There's a lot of ways to build a circle. One of the easiest is to have all of the characters cross over at the same time, potentially from a same incident, and then get reaped together. I never thought about that. Alternatively, shared fetters and passions are a good way to weave a group of despot wraiths together. And sometimes it's just fate and the storyteller that brings everyone together with a shared crisis or foe. Playing a part of a circle comes with its own benefits and restrictions. One of the bright side, you've got companions in the underworld, wraiths who hopefully complement your skills and powers and who are at least as interested in helping you survive as you are in helping them. On the other hand, sometimes you've got to rein in your goals and desires, subjugating them to what the group decides to do. This can be particularly maddening when a passion or fetter is involved. Healthy circles make room for wraiths to take care of their own business as well as the group. Okay. Well, then we'll get into the storyteller roles and what have you, but it's still, there's no doubt there's rules. I can't imagine there's not. I mean, there's rules here, even in what we have defined are so-called laws of physics, which we say is science. But maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I keep reading a lot of what we said was science wasn't right. Oh, that's right. It's theory. You know, it's a theory of relativity. It's a theory. Religion is a theory. Politics is a theory. But yet, then we take those theories and we adapt them as real, so they become real to us. Then here's my question. In all the role playing games, and I love the books, and even getting back to John Dee's books and others, you know, so if time is not relevant in the afterlife, what we would call the ethereal realm, then how would how would a person, say a Roman soldier, let's say a captain, um, how would he and I have anything in shared reality? Beliefs, perspectives on life, customs, attitudes. I mean, it, you see, that's the problem. And so if time, we think that time is linear, but if it's nonlinear, then how does that work? And if you go for the belief that you've been reincarnated, then this other side is completely, I haven't heard anyone talk about that except Ghostland. Now, that was the one book. We never finished it because the idea is that you get it and you finish it. But That one there sounded more realistic. It appears that we are connected to a place and time. All of us. We're connected to this thing. And even when we transcend this eventuality they call death, I still contend if death is associated with eternity, then we got it messed up. There's no way that this life, and I think that's part of the spell, that we really think that this is really special, that somehow or another, that there's only attributes that can be experienced here that can't be carried over there. I don't know if I buy that. And I don't know, and again, in many of my meditation sessions as to, well, what is the purpose for being here? I mean, really, in the end, what is the purpose? If I existed before I was here, then that means I had to have a state of consciousness prior to that. Now, that state of consciousness, was that the ultimate storyteller? Was that taken voluntarily? Did I do this on my own? Am I held captive? Was I taken captive? Was I put into this mind meld, this maelstrom, and I am merely being recorded as you are as to how we react. Each of us having a scribe writing everything that we do. Why? If you and I go through the same life-threatening experience, we're going to take away a different perspective of that intense moment. Now, follow me on this. So, is it to be said that those type of experiences can't be experienced over into this next place, wherever it is? Call it what you will. I see, I lived in the reality that there was this great white throne judgment, that you have all these people and blood is everywhere. They dip their robes in the blood, and the blood cleanses them as white as snow. And they go forth in a line. The line stretches beyond any man's comprehension. John says you can't number it. So we got this thing, which was really taken from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but all right. And so you have this great white throne judgment. You've got this throne. You've got this God, white dude, messed up hair, beard, angry kind of dude, because it's a judgment. And then and man, I was scared shitless about that when you first introduced to that. Oh man, I don't want to be the one who gets rejected. Oh no, no, no. Because apparently everyone sees this lake of fire and you're thrown into it. Well, if I don't have feelings or don't have emotions in the spirit realm, then what would it matter if I was thrown into a lake of fire? I wouldn't feel it anyway, right? And in fact, if you want to look at the lake of fire analogy, death is cold. That realm is cold. Very cold. A lake of fire would be redemption. But anyway, I and then you got this angel dude, right? That looks like a serpent and got different heads, and it's calling your name. And suddenly, your whole life is being shown in IMAX before all the other people waiting in line. That's a freaking horror story. Anyway, and many of you have that same thing. I mean, it's drilled into us. So who's writing that story? And I fashioned my life off at that. It wasn't a matter about me finding forgiveness. No, it was a matter of my ass being saved, right? Because you're already dead, but apparently you're not dead. You're very much alive. Well, then what the hell happened to get me there? Uh, Someone's in there talking in his spirit hovered over the dark waters and he was alone. Well, my only question to that is that's impossible because you said he. He could never have been alone if it's just he. Abbott, just simply following in your comment in the chat room. It couldn't never have been alone. And it could have never been he. I doubt if it was she. It would probably be more appropriate if it existed at all. And if it did, it came from darkness. The whole God of the Bible came from darkness. And yet none of the religions. It's just like has anyone, and I want to thank the person who made the comment on Friday. Go and look at the comment section on Friday's video. The individual, in fact, I'm going to pull it up tomorrow when the ladies are on, that this Jewish God, this Hebrew God, if you're not Jewish, you don't have Jewish blood in you, you're a dog. This Hebrew God that is supposedly the Christian God, and I don't know how that can happen because the crazy thing is even this Jesus character called the Gentile a dog. Now you just got to stop right there and say, and Christianity is this God's, you ready for this? Deception on the Gentiles. They're never going to be anything but dogs. According to the Talmud, the Jewish race enslaves the dogs, rules over the dogs. The dogs have no salvation. But yet, I'm immersed in this reality where they say that this is what everyone's worshiping. I'm not a dog. Sorry about the vase, Todd. But anyway, Rick says, I was once engaged in a Jewish princess. That's just, you and I probably could share another experience on that. I told you what the Jewish rabbi told me. Do the Jewish people a favor. Don't convert. Yes, Loretta, dog in reverse is God, but isn't it odd though? There is no salvation. I mean, if you read the sacred book of the Jewish heritage, the Gentiles are the dogs. And there's a reason why, as for the persecutions throughout history, is because they got this thing. Money naturally is attracted to them. And if you look at the entertainment industry, where's all that creativity mostly come from? It's quite remarkable. Wow. And then I think this, and I see my time's running out, but so if I go back to the whole story of this creation, right? Then death had to be created before life. I mean, if you're telling me it was an afterthought, then this death realm is really new. But I got this sense that it's existed way before. And if it existed before what we call life, then isn't the natural state of things then in this consciousness of what we would define death, the other side? And how did life suddenly become, what would life be worth living if we were living the same thing? And so death, it seems like there's this wide open space of whatever journey or adventure you'd want to go on. Something ain't right. All right, folks. See, I always love it this because how many times we want to get into the name, it's this Hebrew God. And I am not making any derogatory anything. I don't want anything to do with it. Walked away from it. I refuse to believe that it created anything but this chaos. If it is the creator of what we call reality, then it ain't what it's been told us to be. And I think it's an insult for the world to say that there is just one God, when in fact in the world there are many gods. I don't buy it, folks. Just don't. um, hey, Gaia, much love to you and Paul. So anyway, there we go. Happy trails. That's how we're going to go and call this one. Yeah. So got the ladies on tomorrow. Got Nina on Friday. Um, yeah, be a good week. Because again, I just can't accept this. That this thought thing created all this and then somehow wants to blame it on everybody else for it being so fucked up. But it was the one who created it to begin with. I don't know. How do you have a rebellion if you have perfection? The only reason you would have a rebellion is that because it wasn't perfection. Huh. Okay. Books that create egregores don't work for me. Well, Paul tried. I always liked the book Night World. It's one of my favorite books. I've read it 20 times. I'm rereading it again. Just a fascinating alternative in the mass of this craziness. If Robert V, I've recommended that many times to you. You should get a chance. F. Paul Wilson. I love F. Paul Wilson's work. Anyway, if you read the series, you'll find Repairman Jack just to be the type of guy you'd just like to get to know. Um, so there we go. All right. Much love, everybody. See y'all tomorrow. Continue to make it a fabulous, Chris, right back at you. Fabulous day, and favor just rains all over you. I mean, you're just getting soaking wet. So just soak it in, just stand there and just soak it in and just tell the universe, yeah, I just received that favor. It's all over me. Yeah. Until I say, hey, Gilbert, good to see you. Uh, heavy stuff.